Hi everyone, it's Claire here, and today's video is all about China cheapies. So basically, what are they? What are they made from? Where are they from? What's the ethical issues connected with them? So let's start with what is a China cheapie. That is basically a name given by the cloth pad community to very, very cheap imported cloth pads from China and Korea. They are of cheap quality using cheap fabrics. The stitching isn't always great on them, and they're generally in the one style like this, although some do have a flared back or smaller wings. You will usually find they have PUL wings and a PUL back, but some do have laminated minky. This topper fabric is often a source of confusion because it is called bamboo charcoal fleece or charcoal bamboo fleece. But that is not to be confused with this, which is bamboo fleece that you will hear cloth pad makers and home sewers talk about. This is a natural fibre made of organic cotton and bamboo. This bamboo fleece is a polyester blend fleece that is extremely thin. That's 2 layers there. With a tiny bit of bamboo in, and that has been treated with charcoal. To confuse matters further, the fleece I just showed you can also be purchased with charcoal, but it is a much more pastel colour of charcoal, so it's a completely different product to what you're looking at here. This is polyester blend. It is a wicking stay dry top fabric, which is why they use it, and extremely cheap. The inner cores are generally microfiber, toweling, that sort of thing. Sometimes you will see a beige version of this fleece as the topper. And there are a couple of organic versions out and about right now, although I've not seen any that actually have certification from an organic organisation. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not out there. So one of the problems found with these pads is because of the way the wings are, and they are this one shape, you have PUL here that's wonky and in touch with your body. So if you do leak off this, the blood will just drip off there because this is not absorbent at all. Some people do get on with these pads perfectly fine. Some people absolutely hate them. It really is a personal choice. Prices start from £1 going up to postpartum, which is generally £5 something. So you can see how cheap they actually are. Now, to research into these a bit further, I contacted 6 retailers in the UK that either exclusively stock Korean or Chinese imported fabric pads, or makers that actually stitch and make their own brand of cloth pads but then stock these as a cheaper alternative. And you will often see they have their logo on here, and that's something you can get from the wholesaler when you order them. So it is the same pad. 3 of those retailers did not get back to me at all. To check they got my email, I sent it twice, and I also had some family members message them general questions about their products, and they got a response within 48 hours. So obviously they didn't want to answer my question on if these are fair trade and do they have any assurances to the working conditions of pay of the people that make them. The 3 other places did get back to me and all gave the same response, which was a little bit funny. And that was they cannot guarantee the working conditions or where these pads are basically from, but their wholesaler assures them that it is a reputable business they're buying from. So that was as much information as we could get from there. Basically, for them, the buck lies with the wholesaler and no responsibility with them as the retailer. So then I moved on to wholesalers and suppliers of these cloth pads, to which there are several main big ones and some smaller ones that stock them. So I went with the biggest ones because the smaller ones, it turns out, buy from the bigger one and then just add on a bit more and sell them out. So I went with the main suppliers and importers that are either in China or work very closely with China or Korea. Now, a couple of them have pretty much the same information and responses. They are very open about the whole thing, which is kind of an irony. The wholesalers, they'll be completely upfront with you. The information is on their website if you bother to look for it, and if you email them, they will tell you straight up and answer your questions. So I was quite pleased about that. Generally, across several of the suppliers, they say that they check their suppliers to verify that they hold a valid business license, which allows them to sell. And on some of their suppliers, the supplier actually pays them a bit more money or joins their program, and they will go out and do an on-site operation visit to prove that there is an operation there. So it's a little bit disturbing that they need to prove that the pads are coming from the address they're given they're coming from, and that's not something they check as standard, but at least they're honest about that. They then go on to say that as the wholesaler, they cannot verify the authenticity of the pads they're selling, the fabric that's used, that they comply to what they say they are, and they don't guarantee the genuineness of the product or the business that is supplying them to sell on. So that's kind of their disclaimer, if you like, that the buck does not end with them. They're buying them from someone else in good faith and they're selling them on, basically. They could not give me any more information on where their pads are coming from, just saying it's a variety of places and it's really dependent on what they're sent. So there we are. I then moved on to another supplier. This was a huge wholesaler where I could have ordered 500 there and then, chosen if I wanted PUL laminated minky, chosen the colours or patterns, chosen if I wanted the charcoal or the standard colour topper, had labels printed here or sewn on here. There were so many options and it cost you pence to add them. It was just nuts, really insane. And the more you order, the cheaper they get as you go along. And on their listings, they actually had the name of a factory. So I thought, right, we could be getting here, somewhere here. So I went into their information where they then specify they cannot guarantee the factory their products are coming from, as in reality, they could be produced by a different factory to the one listed. So I contacted them, and apparently this is pretty standard across wholesalers that work in China and import in China, is that they may work with an importer themselves, or they may work with a mother factory that pretty much ships in from all different factories over China or Korea, and they don't know the exact one your pads are coming from. So that was very disappointing. I then moved on to another wholesaler that provided photos of a factory. It was only a couple of photos and they were the same everywhere on the website. So I messaged them about that and said, is this the factory all the pads on your site are coming from? And they said, no, it's just an example of one factory that they have visited, and they took pictures on site, but they don't visit the other factories and you don't really know which factory your pads are coming from. So I was like, oh, we thought we were getting somewhere, then we weren't. Then I visited another wholesaler and they were very helpful, very nice. And they said I could come out to China and visit a factory in person. So I was like, I don't really want to do that, but okay. It's good that you offer this, because obviously if I was a serious retailer, then that would be something I would want to look into. And I said to them, so could I visit a few factories? How does it work? How many factories do you work with? And suddenly they were like shut down and they were like, no, you visit the one factory that there's a picture of on our homepage. You cannot visit the other factories. This is like the mother factory, if you like. And I was like, well, if I visit it, will my pads come from that factory? Because that's the one I will have seen. And the answer was no. This is just an example of one of the factories we work with. So again, I'm not really able to get any real clarity here on where these pads are coming from at all. So that was a bit disappointing. I searched for fair trade operations going on in China when it comes to cloth pads and Korea and could not find any. I did find a wonderful business in India, or company rather than business / company in India, that I will put the details down below, called Eco Femme. And basically they hire women from local villages, train them to sew and use the patterns. They make cloth pads, which are mostly flannel, so you don't have all these slippy. And they're nice looking pads. They sell them at a very reasonable price, £1 or £2 more than this kind of pad, but they are much better quality fabrics. The workers are paid fairly. There's education in menstruation and sexual health for their villages, for the women. They're provided menstrual care items such as cups and pads. So it's a great organisation and one that's well worth supporting. If you stock these pads and you can prove where they're coming from, then do get in touch, because I would love to pop your name down below in the description. But sadly, someone's word on the wholesaler said is not going to work there. If you're looking for cheap or budget pads because you're on a very strict budget, there are other options if you don't want to go for these pads. You can sew your own from upcycled materials around your home. I've done a video on upcycling, check that one out. All it will cost you is your thread if you already have a machine. If you don't have a machine, maybe you could borrow one or hand sew some. If you're not interested in sewing at all, then like I say, check out Eco Femme. Some makers have a budget range that they make themselves, so they might be a less complicated pattern, serged. They may have less overheads because they use flannel as their cores and toppers, etc. for that. So definitely have a look around. Also visit de-stash groups. You can find excellent condition pre-loved pads, but if you're not interested in pre-loved pads, then don't worry, because there are a lot of brand new pads available in the de-stash groups where people have over purchased or just never got round to using them. So check those out. Now, I understand that some people may be watching this and thinking, okay, you've made some points here, but we can't always be, you know, ethical and eco-friendly in everything we do. And that is true. To go from your carpet all the way up through your house with everything in it, eco-friendly, ethically sourced, would be insanely difficult to start with, and also insanely expensive, because often these products cost a lot more. So we all try and do our best. But for me, why it's important with menstrual products is because the cloth community as a whole is about education and support. So educating women in what they're using in and on their bodies during menstruation and the chemicals involved in that, what cloth can offer, making menstruation something that we can talk about openly, supporting women in all issues of menstrual health. So I find it very difficult to get on board with a product like this, where it's possible that they're being made in a factory where the person making them is not in a safe working environment, is not being paid anywhere near fairly, and can't even afford menstrual products for themselves. Now, I'm in no way saying that every one of these products is made like that, because I'm sure it's not. I mean, I would absolutely hope it's not. There are probably some really good factories out there producing these pads. But the problem is finding them, because I can't find any way of telling that and knowing where these pads are exactly coming from or what conditions. So for me, I'm not willing to support this particular product because of the implications it could have as a whole and my feelings on cloth and menstrual health and the importance of it. So that's why this video was important to me. Everyone's going to have their own viewpoints on this, and I completely respect if this is the pads you can afford and they work for you, then I completely respect you buying them. It's not that I'm saying no one should ever purchase these pads and that they should be banned or something. I'm just saying that the information is not easily available. People don't talk about it very much. And this is what I found from research. So I feel having knowledge is power. And I hope this video helps others understand a bit more about these products and maybe gives you some ideas on other products that you can get that don't involve these China cheapies. And that's it from me. So I will speak to you soon.